What's up, champ? Today we're going to break down a few of the comments that I got on one of my first video about why migrants come to the UK, and I thought, why shouldn't I do a video on this? They were kind of hateful comments, but I don't take it personal because I'm just here to share information and knowledge and help educate people. That's my number one goal. Unite people instead of dividing them. The comments were something like, well, Muslims don't integrate, or minorities, they don't integrate into UK society. Muslims are changing the British culture. They don't respect our culture and they keep changing it. And there was another comment that made me laugh. Someone said, "Go home, Abdul. The Taliban has declared amnesty." I don't know what that means, but never really looked into it. I just thought it was quite funny that people actually do think like that. Today I was going to break down why don't Muslims or minorities don't integrate in the Western society. What is stopping them? And hopefully this will give you a better understanding from a minority perspective who's actually experienced it a lot himself. So I will not side with any religion, but these are some of my personal stories and the experience that I've had. Hopefully this will help you understand it from a different perspective and give you a different view of this scenario. You get people like saying they'll send them back to their own country. To me, I'm like, do you even know what that means? Because people are born here, people are third or fourth generation or fifth generation migrants here. What that means is that their great-great-grandfather came here and they had kids and their children grew up and they had their own children and so on. So to a lot of people, this is their own country, even though the colour of their skin is different, just like mine. I consider United Kingdom my own country because I'm British. I've got a British birth certificate. I was adopted by a white Caucasian family. So I do consider myself British, and when I do go to Afghanistan, I don't feel home over there. We have passports, and a lot of people do have passports, whether they're first generation or third generation or even fifth generation migrants. They're just British, just like you. My name is Ralph. I was born as Raouf in Afghanistan. I came to the United Kingdom when I was 13. A lot of people made fun of my name at school. I grew up in one of the most racist area in the UK, in the northeast of England. I was the only black-headed kid in school. A lot of kids would make fun of my name by the way it sounded. They would make fun of the way I spoke. Obviously, a lot of those experiences then made me the person I am today. My name was changed because of the adoption, partly because of racism, because I didn't like, at the age of 13, 14, you don't want other children to make fun of you and be the outcast. I never really got invited to any house parties or birthday parties. So I'm fully British. I've got a passport. I go traveling. I go to a lot of different countries on holidays, and I still get comments like this on my YouTube channel. So I thought I'll break it down. Hopefully this will give people a better understanding. Why migrants don't integrate into UK or Western society? Well, let me tell you the truth, and it might not be something that you expect, but at the end of the day, it's all about education, not arguments. Now I've got my notes here, so if you keep seeing me looking this way, it's because I've got my notes here. I'm looking through it so I don't miss anything important. When I was younger, I tried to integrate into UK society. I tried my best to fit in everything that I did. I was made to feel different. I was reminded that I was different and I was an outsider all the time. It doesn't matter where I was. Even though I was walking down the street, people looked at me funny. Grown women at their age of 50s would just talk to each other and smirk to each other and just laugh. And I knew where they were laughing at me and looking at me because they were talking to each other and smirking like little kids. I've been knocked unconscious on a night out. Literally, I was standing against this wall. This Caucasian guy was beating up his girlfriend in the middle of the street, and one of my mates was going to ask him, "Well, what are you doing? Please don't beat her up." I didn't do anything. It was one of my friend, Kurdish guy, who went to ask the Caucasian lad, "Please don't beat up your girlfriend. What are you doing?" That's all I saw. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor. Ambulance around me, and I had like seizures. I had 7 stitches on my lip. The scar is still here, I think. Sorry for saying this to anyone. I've been called a Paki. I've been called a nigger. I've been called a black bastard. I've been called Taliban. And just to make it clear, I am actually a Hazara. A Hazara means 1,000. Hazara is 1,000er. That 1,000er, the Hazara people, were descendant of Genghis Khan's warriors during his reign of empire nearly 1,000 years ago. And so I am not Afghan. I am not a Pakistani. I am not black. I am Hazara, a proud Hazara who's been committed genocide against my people by the Taliban for years and years. Just like the Jews, we are the minorities in Afghanistan. A lot of things that I've been told. One night specifically, I remember I went to the pub with my friend Jamie. He always looked after me. He was a really nice guy, even though the area was a lot racist. He always looked out for me, and I really appreciate that from him. He was one of my best friends, and I've always told him that you always accepted me like others didn't. And we played together. We played football. We did a lot of things together. And anyway, I was in this pub. I was told by this guy, turned around and said to me, "You're not allowed to be in this country." You know, that still stuck to me. See, this kind of stuff will stop people from going out, minorities specifically, people of colour, because they get beaten up on a night out jumped by 4 or 5 people and beaten up for no reason. At the end of the day, you might think that this is actually good, but in reality, who does this hurt the most? Yes, you beat the minority up and you feel hard and strong because there was 5 of you jumped on one person, but those pubs will stop selling as much, if that makes sense. The pubs are actually lost customers. The pubs that your sister, your mother, or your auntie, or even someone from down the street was working in, they might not generate as much sales, and less sales means less profit, and less profit means less jobs. So in reality, this actually hurt your local pubs, and those taxation would actually pay for people's benefits and help to contribute in the economy. Let's put into some numbers, because I love numbers. At the end of the day, numbers always makes these videos a lot more interesting. The UK pub and nightlife is projected to make over 28 billion annually. 28 billion is easy to say. It takes one person to count from 1 to 1 billion in 190 years. So it's a lot of money, and it's easy to say it. Let's just say 10% of them are minorities and they stop going out. 10% of 28 billion is 3 billion. 3 billion is a lot of money. Just as I said, it takes one person to count from 1 to 1 billion. It takes them 190 years. So it's a lot of money, and those money could be contributing towards taxation, building the country up. Because those money are lost now, jobs will be lost because there will be less sales again. In reality, these people's ignorance is not just cruel, it's bad for the business as well, local businesses, because people go into the takeaway shops and buy food, or restaurants and eat food, and those restaurants will not make as much money, and eventually they'll end up shutting down. The other story was that in school, when I first came to the UK, I could not speak a word of English. I would go out in the playground, I only knew how to say hello, but kids would mock me and make fun of my name or the way I spoke, and all of that kind of got stuck in the back of my head. So instead of going out and playing at break time and lunch times, I would actually go into the library and I would read books, try to improve my English and my pronunciation, because I thought if I actually start to speak English very well, then I would be made fun of less. At the end of GCSE, bear in mind I started in year 9, and year 10 and 11 GCSE started, I actually got better grades than a lot of my peers, considering English was my 5th language. That's because I pushed myself, and all of this contributed towards me pushing myself and getting better grade. After school, I went on to do A-levels, and I got really good grades. I got A's and B's. That allowed me to go on to university. I got a first-class honours degree in entrepreneurial business management. I've had 2 clothing brands, and one of them was part of the university project, and we sold the business at the end of the university, me and my partner, because we had to work within the team. We sold that business and we just went on 2 weeks holiday and really enjoyed it. All the money, we just spent it. Bear in mind, I was recently diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. It was 10 times harder for me, but nothing stopped me from getting that degree. I worked harder, 10 times harder than anyone else. After university, of course, I went to get loads of different jobs. I got a sales job. I worked as a plumber, as a gas engineer with different companies, and every company that I worked for, the managers, they did everything they could to kick me out of the business. They made excuses, they made stories up and told the guys higher up that Ralph has done this and Ralph has done that. And you could see that by their body language, they didn't really like me. It was because I was a minority and I was here to take their jobs. But let's think logically here. Put in simple terms, would it be better for that minority to work and contribute to the economy, pay taxes, rather than sit on the benefit system and take money out? Because let's face it, if minorities don't have jobs, the system has to fund them, because that's the law of the land. If those people are getting sacked from jobs because of the colour of their skin or the way they look, then they are actually taking money out of the system. So in my opinion, there shouldn't be any racism, there shouldn't be any people of colour, there shouldn't be any of taking their jobs, because at the end of the day, anyone that works, it doesn't matter what colour is your skin, anyone that works, they will be taxed on their income. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're white, Caucasian, black, it doesn't matter, you'll get taxed. So the point I'm trying to make is that money will be taken out of the system instead of paid into the system, which then again hurts the economy. Other lesson that this taught me during that time of obviously racism, and personally experienced it in jobs and work. This taught me that the world is not actually fair, the Western world, and for me, I did everything I could to become my own boss. I've had loads of different businesses, as I've mentioned in my videos. I've had up to 25 different businesses. A lot of them are not profitable. Some of them were, a few of them I sold. And I learned from it, and eventually I became my own boss. Then, because of this reason, I didn't have to work for anyone else or be ostracized and kicked out of many jobs. So I'm my own boss at right now, and I work for myself. I'm happy. I have a lot of time to go to the gym and do what I want to do. All of those experiences pushed me to become my own boss and not be an employee, work for someone else. Let me ask you another question. Do you think this could be the reason why a lot of small to medium-sized businesses are actually owned by people of colour? Because I worked with a Kurdish guy at the age of 16. As soon as I passed my driving test, I would deliver pizzas on weekends for him, 3 nights a week, 3 shifts. During the week, I would go and do my A-levels. Full week, I was at college. At night time, I would go and actually deliver pizzas for him. But this guy could not even speak English. He had 2 takeaway shops, and now he's got a supermarket. He couldn't even read his letters because a lot of the time he got me to read the letters for him. Based on my experience, I experienced that. But do you think that his experience, or there's a lot of minorities who had similar experiences, and that's why they ended up becoming businessmen, owning their own business? And this guy was actually employing over 25 people across his different businesses. At the end of the day, the people, his employees, would pay taxes, and that contributed to the economy. Without him, those 25 people would be without jobs. But at the end of the day, there would be 25 less jobs in that area if he was an employee himself working for someone else. Another story is that one of my Sri Lankan friend is a really good friend of mine. He worked for the NHS. He's a doctor. He's a 2nd or 3rd generation British Sri Lankan, was born here. He said he was on a night out once. There was a guy who told him that you're not allowed to be in this country. Similar experience to me. And he said, turned around and said, man, you're crazy. And just walked off. And the next thing he knows is there's 5 or 6 people beating him and kicking him on the floor. They hospitalized him. He nearly didn't make it. Experiences like that will stop people from going out. And as a result, that will hurt your local businesses, which hurts the economy. And as a result, the UK economy, the GDP will not be as high because of people will not be going out and spending their money. Instead, they will just stay at home and do whatever they want to do. Like, I don't go out. I haven't been out in years because every time I've been out, I feel like I've been discriminated against. So I would rather not go out. Instead, I would rather focus on my business, like this YouTube channel, help people understand the story from a different perspective. And then obviously another one of my Pakistani friend who I go to the gym with regularly, we talk. He's in his 60s, 3rd or 4th generation British Pakistani. He said, Ralph, one thing I'll tell you is that no matter what we do, no matter what I have done, I will always be a Paki to these people. And that really made me think. And there was another Indian Muslim guy who is 3rd or 2nd generation. He told me his story. What he was saying is his father or great-grandfather came here, and then they gave birth to his father, and then his father obviously gave birth to him. And he was like, when we were little, we could only play within our street. And when he says, well, when I mean our street, I literally means within our street, the terrace houses. We could not go past the end of the street, or we could not go past this end of the street. We had to do everything, play within that street, because then our parents could keep an eye on us and we would not get beaten. Our siblings would keep an eye on us. In the street, people knew kind of thing who was who. And if they got beaten up, then obviously people would know who was who. But if they went past the street, they would get beaten up and jumped on. These are children. The other thing he was saying, that when he was in school, the head teachers would say all the Asian kids stand up at the end of school and give them 10 to 15 minutes start to get home before they release all the Caucasian kids, because they would chase them up and beat them up, jump them, 10 people at a time. These kind of things doesn't really help people integrate at the end of the day, in my opinion, because we're always made to feel like an outsider. We're always made to feel that you don't belong. And as a result, people will then form their own identities. They will just stick to what they know, and because of that reason, they will just be who they are and where they've come from, and could follow their own culture. For me, in the Northeast, I had all of that discrimination against me once I turned 16, 17, when I passed my driving test. My personal reaction to this was that I actually blasted 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg and Tupac out the windows, and I would put the windows down on the car, and I would dress up like a gangster with massive chains around my neck and bling bling tops, and I would dress up in baggy jeans and wear my jeans a bit lower like the American rappers, because at the end of the day, in my head was that if I am being treated like an outsider, I might as well just own it. And the same thing happens to Muslims and minorities or other people of colour. Because they are being treated differently, they will just stick to their own culture and will not try to integrate because they're not felt welcome. And my other question is to you is that have you actually ever tried to befriend a person of colour? I mean, I've got some Caucasian friends. I'm not saying that I don't have many friends, but a lot of the times I do feel that just as I was in school, I was not getting invited to birthday parties and other parties, that the kids would come the next day and they would talk about all the stories and what happened. And obviously I could hear all of that, and that was quite hurtful for me because, why do I get not invited? I am still a human being, but I was different. Again, the question is, have you ever tried to befriend a person of colour, or do you always try to make fun of them or the way they look, or you blame them for all your problems instead? At the end of the day, I always say that minorities are outnumbered. That's why they're called minority. The UK population, for example, is over 80% white people, and or people of colour or minorities, it makes around 20% of the population. So, in my opinion, one person cannot fight 10 attackers. 10 people attacking me, for example, I can't fight it. I mean, I can probably fight 1 or 2 people, but at the end of the day, even a lot of people can't fight 2 people. I might not be able to. Might be able to fight 1, depends how good the person is, but at the end of the day, a person cannot defend themselves against 10 attackers. And you might feel like, go and brag about it, just as that guy who knocked me unconscious, he walked down the street saying that, I've knocked a fucking Paki out and I'll knock you out if you don't shut up. He said that to one of my school friends. At the end of the day, that's not really strength. That's not how an alpha male should be. That is weakness. One day, that person or those people might think in the back of their head that was that the right thing to do. It might occur to them, or a lot of the times it doesn't occur to them either, and they just think they're very proud of it. But in my opinion, that's cowardness and not strength, and it's weakness. Let's talk about some history, because history is always good. History brings everything together, connects everything together. And a lot of people ignores history, or they don't understand history, or they don't know history, and they just blame migrants for their problems, and they just think that migrants just turn up on the door and we just take them in and we don't say anything. After the World War II, the British Empire was the most powerful empire. Now American Empire is the most powerful empire, and the next empire will be the Chinese Empire in the next 5 to 10 years, of course. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying it's true. After World War II, Britain obviously brought a lot of migrants to help rebuild the country. These were Indians, Pakistanis, Jamaicans, African people, Chinese and Middle Easterns, people from Iraq, Syria, those kind of places that British ruled over. The British also ruled over India for over 200 years, just like every other countries that part of the Commonwealth. During their rule over India, they starved millions of people. They stole all their wealth and they brought them to the UK to build their own country. And then during I think it was 1947, they divided the country into 3, which is modern day Bangladesh, India and Pakistan. That partition actually caused a lot of rift between people. The Hindus thought that the Muslims were bad, and the Muslims thought that the Hindus were bad as they were going past each other, because all the Pakistanis were told that you should go to Pakistan because that's the Muslims' land, and the Hindus were told to go to India, and that's the Hindu people's land. And as they were passing each other, they killed loads of people, and because of that partition, over 1 million people just got slaughtered and killed. 1 million is easy to say, but it's a lot of people. The British Empire then brought a lot of minorities to work in factories to rebuild the country, and those same people got beaten up and abused on a daily basis. They even had a name for it, and they call it Paki bashing, which is really hurtful from a person of colour. Obviously, because you might be a Caucasian person, you've never experienced any discrimination or anything, so you don't understand it, in my opinion. And it is hurtful to other people, even those names calling or even bringing those words up. So I am really sorry for bringing it up. I'm just trying to educate people. Please don't take it personal. So when people complain about migrants, they ignore the history that brought them here in the first place. In my opinion, integration is a two-way street. If society constantly tells you that you don't belong here, you're different, you're not one of us, instead of actually teaching you their own ways. I mean, the movie Avatar, if you've not seen it, the person who goes there first, they don't know their way. The girl has to teach them their way of life, and that's the only way people will integrate, not being pushed out. We know this is Britain. You don't have to hang British flags everywhere. You don't have to hang an English flag everywhere. To us, that is a form of racism. I know it's proud. I'm proud to be British myself. It kind of tells me at the same time that you're not welcome here. Just as if it was the Muslims would hang Muslim flags everywhere, the British will feel this is wrong. It shouldn't happen. Until you see it, you don't experience it. You don't feel how it makes you feel deep down as a person. This also reminds me of the famous experiment I came across a few days ago while I was doing some research. In America, there was a teacher who did an experiment. She was asking all the kids, who do we not like? And they were all saying the black kids, and they were all about racism, this experiment. And this teacher basically said that, I have blue eyes. Because I have blue eyes, all the blue-eyed kids are smarter than brown-eyed kids. And you can see the anger and the disapproval in the brown-eyed children's faces during this experiment. The video is actually on YouTube, you can find it yourself. So she said that brown-eyed kids would get 5 minutes early break, they'd be able to play 5 minutes later. They got better options, basically. They got a few more things than the brown-eyed kids. What happened was that those brown-eyed kids would start resisting, and in the playground the blue-eyed kids would say that, yo, haha, you've got brown eyes. They would resist and they would fight back, essentially. They would come back in the classroom, what happened? Or he beat me up, he punched me. Why was that? Because I said that you're brown-eyed kids, or you look different and you're dumber than me. 2 days later, or a few days later, she did the opposite. She told, actually, I lied to you the other day, and this time I believe that brown-eyed kids are actually smarter than blue-eyed kids. The brown-eyed kids were really happy that they've got 5 minutes extra break. They can go and do what they want to do, and the experiment was teaching them that during this test they would actually complete in the test faster. So because the brown-eyed kids or the blue-eyed kids were told that you were dumber, their performance started dropping. And eventually she ended the experiment. She said that because you've never experienced what it's like to be a person of color, when you say stuff like this to people, that's how hurtful it is. And because of that reason, this experiment tells you. And she was asking questions to kids, and she would ask them that, do you think this has taught you something? And they were all saying yes. Do you think that brown-eyed kids are smarter than blue-eyed kids? They were saying no. Do you think that blue-eyed kids are smarter than brown-eyed kids? They said no. All the kids were, do you think that black people are, less important than white people? And they were saying no. Do you think that they should be made fun of? They should be made feel different. They should be made feel that you're dumb and stupid. Everyone was saying no, basically. The experiment ended. The lesson here was that racism is taught. Superiority is a lie. People quickly believe what society tells them, and racism is no different. I am no different to any Caucasian person. I've worked 10 times harder with dyslexia and ADHD, and I've accomplished a lot in my life. Because of that reason, some person who is not so capable, didn't have the opportunities, are not less worth than me. So I treat everyone the same because of my own personal experiences. Let's zoom out a bit here. Why migrants do really come to the UK. I mean, there was a lot of legal migrants and there's a lot of illegal migrants. Legal migrants, just last year, for example, there was nearly 1 million people that came to the UK legally. Yeah, there was around 47,000 or something that came on the boats, but the media ostracizes every person of colour, saying that they're all migrants. So everyone hates a person of colour because they think everyone is a migrant, but in reality, nearly 1 million people was let in legally last year by the government, the British government, and only 45,000 people came illegally into the UK. One of the main reasons is obviously the falling birth rate in the UK or Western countries. Not many people are having children. Obviously, economically, they don't have the money to have children, 5 or 6 children. And as a result, the birth rate is dropping. By 2050, apparently it's projected that over a quarter of the UK population will be over the age of 65. So who pays for these people? Who pays taxes to keep paying for their pensions? A lot of the times, it is the migrants who will work hard and pay their taxes and contribute to the economy. The second reason is cheap labour. Migrants actually keep a lot of the industries running, like the NHS. Nurses, carers, farm workers, delivery drivers, hospitality, jobs that many locals won't do themselves because they don't get paid enough. Reason number 3 here is I've got economic necessity. Migrants actually help fund the system. They pay the taxes and fund the system, and pays those taxes, then pays for benefits in schools and teachers, a lot of the councils as well, people who work for the council. The other fact is that 84% of people who claim universal credit are British or Irish, and only 1.5% of them are refugees. Migrants at the end of the day contribute more to the UK economy than they take out. Over 20% of the NHS staff are actually foreign-born. Here's the irony. People complain about migrants all the time on Facebook, and then on the night they order Indian takeaway or they order a pizza, not realizing that those pizza shops are actually run by migrants, and they order a taxi. The taxi driver goes and takes them their night out or something, go for a meal. They order takeaways. The delivery driver or Just Eat drivers are actually migrants who delivers those food, because a lot of the locals would not do those jobs themselves. Don't get me wrong, I'd say most of the British public are actually nice people. The people who complain the most are usually the people who are on the benefits. They're just sitting there at home. They've got nothing. This is my opinion again. Please don't take it personal, okay? A lot of these people are the people who are in the benefit system. They sat at home and they just complain about migrants. They don't understand the system. They don't understand the numbers. behind it all. They're not doing those jobs. I mean, at the end of the day, you could go and get a job as a delivery driver, but I don't think you would want to be a delivery driver or a Just Eat driver because they don't pay enough. For example, I mean, I know a British guy who comes to my gym. He's 28 years old and he's been trying to go to the army. He's been rejected and stuff. But there's nothing wrong with him. He's got tattoos. He looks handsome. He's a cool guy. He always says hello to me. But you can see in his face that he blames the migrants for his problems. He's 28 years old. His brother is an electrician. His dad is a gas engineer, plumber, because I've worked with him now and again. He himself is on claiming benefits, is on the job seekers allowance. In my opinion, why can't he just go and learn to become a plumber with his dad or become an electrician with his brother? It might take a few years, but at the end of the day, no one was spoon-fed, just like me. I had to work 10 times harder than anyone else to get to where I am. And everyone has to, because the world is a competitive world, and if you're weak and you're sat on your ass and doing nothing, no one will spoon feed you, neither the government or no one else. Just like me, I wouldn't be happy just to work hard and pay my taxes when people are just sat and doing nothing. Personally, I call it laziness. This is not strength, this is weakness and laziness, in my opinion, because anyone can go and work and anyone can get a job. I could literally go and get a job today. I would walk down the street and ask so many shops, and I'll be like, do you need a staff? And one of those person will give me a job, and I would earn about 50 quid a night, and I'd be happy with that. I mean, no, the question is obviously, why don't Muslims integrate? Why don't Muslims integrate into British culture, or they change in British culture? In my opinion, they're always mocked. They're treated like an outsider. They're mocked on daily basis. They're rejected on daily basis. They're made fun of. They're made fun of their accent, their culture, their religion, or the way they look. So, personal opinion, instead of begging for acceptance from the people who always rejects them and tells them that you're an outsider, they've form their own communities and identities because they're not accepted within the UK society. They're always told that you're different, get out and go back to your own country. The crazy fact is that I came across, I don't know how much of it is true, but bear in mind that the whole world's population is over 8 billion. Jews only make 16 million. Most of them lives in America and Israel. However, over 50% of the world's wealth is controlled by them. That is crazy, if you think about it. So was this because of privilege, or was this because of oppression, which forced them to build resilience, network and power so no one can rule over them? If we keep oppressing Muslims or personal minorities, they will always resist. They will always fight back, and it's just part of survival. It's human nature. We've always survived. And the Jews, I feel for them. They have been committed genocide against by many empires, and the Egyptians, for example, many other empires. And that's why the Zionist movement started. It was because of oppression. And the Islamic State is no different. The reason they started was because of oppression in the Middle East by the West and NATO. So you probably heard this saying, tough times create tough people create good times create weak people create tough times. I always go back and look into history and think, after the Second World War, or people who won the Second World War, those men and women, they were very tough. They fought with tooth and nail and won the war. They built Britain that we call today. As a result, they gave their children good times. Their children had good times playing around because they fought the war, and there was a lot of economical growth. Those good times made some people weak, because good times, obviously, you didn't see what tough was. Because of that reason, everything was given to you, and that created some weak people, not all of them. So what do we see today? A lot of men are sitting at home blaming the migrants, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, abusing drugs, signing up to OnlyFans, and not going out to go to the gym or work or get a job. And not getting laid is the right term. Claiming mental health benefits instead of actually building resilience and being a good man. And meanwhile, the very migrants who are running the NHS, delivering food, keeping the supply chain running, they get blamed for everything. So when someone says to me that migrants don't integrate, I laugh, because in my opinion, integration is a two-way street. Migrants will always try to integrate and fit within society, just as I did as a young kid. And if society does not tell them, society does not show them and keep telling them that you're different, keep pushing them out, then they will form their own identities. Ask yourself this question again. I asked before, ask yourself this question: when was the last time you befriended a person of colour instead of mocking them for their colour of their skin, or the way they spoke, or the way they sounded, or the way they dressed, or because of their religion? Do you see humans, or do you just see a person of colour because they look different. So migrants are not really the problem. They're keeping the country running. Weakness, laziness, drugs and prejudice are the actual problem. A nation usually fails when men waste their potential and what they could accomplish with their lives. If you call yourself strong, build, protect and lead. In my opinion, no woman respects a man with no drive, no ambition, no goals, and no society survives when its men are weak. My name is Ralph. I'm British. I'll never apologize for who I am, and I'll never stop speaking the truth. If you like the video, if you learned anything from this video, please like, share, comment your thoughts below. I love reading every comment and I'll try my best to reply to all of them. And most importantly, subscribe to this channel because I will always try to educate and I will always try to unite people rather than dividing people. That's my #1 goal with this channel. I will try to motivate you to become the person that you want to be. This is obviously the beginning. I will get better from now on. Thank you for taking the time. Again, have a great day and don't be fooled and divided by media outlet channels because they actually profit from your hatred.